Hello everyone to today's Orchestrator Weekly. Let's have a look at the agenda for today. Okay. First topic I have on the agenda is that we last week we had a meeting about the NFS integration in the dashboard and in the volumes module. To give you a quick summary about what's the problem there. Unfortunately, we now have two incompatible NFS exports management implementations. So the first NFS management was developed for Nautilus in the dashboard. And the second NFS implementation is now living in volume/NFS, which provides a neat CLI for that. So the big problem with this is that both are kind of based on the same. So the volumes NFS code base is based on the dashboard's NFS code base, but now they have diverged to a point where we no longer can use both NFS management code bases in parallel. So we have to find a way to unify it. That's the first problem. And the second problem is that we have to find a way to migrate users from Nautilus to Octopus. Yeah, you heard right. That's from Nautilus to Octopus. Yep, that's the issue. So Mike Fritsch is engaged in that. Varsha is engaged in that, and Kifa is also engaged in that discussion. I think from our perspective, there is nothing really that we can do about this topic. It's just we now have the situation and we have to deal with it. Any thoughts? Any remarks? Any emotions? Nothing. Okay.
Some kind of migration. It would be nice to make that migration like automatic in the future.
Yeah. Having a migration at all would be favorable. Right now there is nothing. And to what? To the dashboard code or to the volumes NFS code, because they're both kind of incompatible. Not really incompatible, but yeah, they can't work both on the same NFS export.
Is there any kind of gap in like feature set, or is it more about a different way of storing the same kind of configuration?
They have a different feature set, and as far as I know, they corrupt export the other module created. At least that's the information I got. Okay. Yeah, that affects Rook as well, because the dashboard supports creating NFS exports with Rook, and the volumes NFS module also supports. creating NFS exports with Rook. So it's Rook and Cfdm are both affected by this problem that we have right now. Okay, next topic. Extra Ceph.conf entries. There seems to be a problem that the Ceph.conf generated by config generate minimal conf is not complete to an extent that is needed by every different edge case. Like for example, things that need to be set before the initial monitor connection is set up. And then Dennis Konradenko also mentioned to me that some Blue Store settings need to be loaded before the monitor connection is set up. I don't know. That's a bit above my area of expertise. So I came up with basically two solutions. One is to provide a way to extend the Ceph.conf, which is deployed to all daemons in the cluster. And the other pull request extends what is generated by Ceph-config generate minimal conf. Yeah. I hope we can get both things merged. One temporary solution for having a flexible way to do everything right now, and the other one for properly generating a minimal Ceph.conf.
Yeah, I think it's quite clear that the existing generate minimal isn't sufficient since it only includes a single option. I think that this wasn't finished, perhaps. I guess I'm curious about where you see the use cases for this as well. Like, and what happens when you do add these extra Ceph-conf? Does that mean like you end up restarting all the daemons in the cluster?
Reconfiguring, not restarting.
Okay. I think some of the options might only take effect on boot.
Yeah, I don't want to reboot every daemon in the cluster every time.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you really have something that then you need to reboot them manually. I see this as a feature of last resort. In general, everything should work using the monster, and if you really want to debug a specific setting, or if it turns out that one specific setting really must be set, then you can use this kind of extra Ceph.conf setting. But then you're basically on your own.
Okay, so it's more like an edge case, not something that you expect users to use in the course of things.
I mean, the generate minimal conf should be sufficient that we don't need to use the extra. Should be sufficient for all use cases. Hopefully, at least that's the plan, or the idea. Or in general, it should be automated. And the user shouldn't need to mess with a Ceph.conf. There is a different use case. Imagine you have a Ceph client that doesn't call to the monitor to get settings, to get options, but it only implements reading the Ceph.conf. And there you also need a way to physically change the etc Ceph.conf on each host. And this pull request also solves this use case. but it's nothing really everyone should use. It's just I don't know. It's something
That's a kind of escape
a bit
hatch
more
almost,
hidden.
just in
Yeah.
case there's some kind of bug that we can't set a config option in a different way.
Okay. Next topic. Pit one in containers. So right now we don't have a proper pit one in containers, which means that the Ceph daemons itself are pit one, which is not the way Rook is doing things. Rook uses tiny. Right now, Cfdm does nothing, which leads to basically two problems. One is that zombie processes spawned by the Ceph daemons, including the manager, are not properly cleaned up. And the second problem is that core dumps are not created. That's because the kernel treats processes with pit one as special and doesn't create core dumps. So it works as long as the core dump was not created by pit one, but a different pit. Then you automatically are getting core dumps. So thankfully, Docker and Cfdm Podman supports a flag called ---- init, and that should work. I know that's not working on all distributions, so I'm really hesitant to enabling this setting by default on all distributions, but in general, this should provide a way to generate core dumps and read zombie processes for the cluster, which is great. Any thoughts?
Just one thing. I think that maybe we should implement this as the default option. Okay.
Yes.
I think that it works in SUSE, it works in Rail 8. Okay. And well, probably there is a problem with CentOS 8 and Fedora, but it's something that could be solved. Okay. Because it's just to install a dependency. So what I propose is to include a node in the installation, okay, that as a new prerequisite, if you are going to use CentOS 8 or Fedora, you need to install the catatonic package.
It seems to be a general a packaging problem because, I mean, the functionality just doesn't work. So it seems to be that the init process is just missing from the requirements of the RPM.
Yeah.
Another idea to automate this would be to first spawn the first monitor with ---- init and see if it fails. And if not, then silently omit the ---- init flag. But the problem with this is that if we are silently falling back, then users just won't have any columns. and are unaware of this problem until they hit a problem. So I really don't like the way to fall back automatically.
But I think that this is not our problem, okay? The problem is that in order to make the minus minus init parameter in Podman, you need to have installed this dependency, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that in this moment is fixed in some operating system and in others is not solved, okay? So I think that probably the direction in the operating system where it's not fixed is to include this dependency in order to make Postman work with all the parameters. So it's something that is not in our field. Okay, what we can do is just to warn the user that if you are going to use this operating system with this version, you know that Podman has this requirement, and you need to install it in order to have properly configured Podman and the possibility to have core files and the problem of the clean of the zombie containers.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I think.
Mm-hmm. I really would like to get this pull request in and getting it merged, even disabling it by default, and then following up with a new pull request and that prints out a warning or prints out a hint that you should enable this.
Is there some way we can check that for that package dependency that you're talking about, Wanmi?
Is catatonic the package that you need to install in order to make Podman work with this parameter? I think that it comes from I don't remember how I reached this conclusion. Okay, I can send you an email.
Yeah, no worries. I guess that the point is that I think we definitely want to be able to have core dumps in by default.
Yep.
Regardless of the mechanism and regardless of the distribution.
Yes, I remember. If you try to use the init parameter with run, okay, in CentOS 8, okay, you immediately you are going to receive a error message. I don't remember exactly what was the string, okay. If you search this string, you can see in CentOS and in Fedora not pull requests, open bugs about this issue, okay? And this is because in both places the catatonic package is not installed, okay? So it's a requirement that probably Podman needs. I think that is something that should be solved by Podman. In this case, what is happening is that in Trail 8, for example, we have in Red Hat a bug that is closed in this moment that includes this package. And for SUSE, I think that is the same. Okay, but in the case of CentOS, Ubuntu, and Fedora, I think that is not solved yet. It's very easy to check.
We have a different option. We have a different option. Instead of making it the default, we could make it a hard requirement that this is working. And then document how to install the package properly and try fail hard if that requirement is not met.
Okay. So make the check when we are creating the bootstrap cluster in order to see if it is installed or not, or each time that we are going to deploy new daemons in new hosts.
So the problem is the upgrade case, right? For new clusters, we can make it a hard requirement, but for the upgrade case, we cannot properly make this a hard requirement immediately.
Yeah.
But we could fail the host check. Adding it as a host check.
Okay.
As the host check thing, and then failing the host check if that dependency is not met. I mean, for downstream, that's not a big issue because for both downstream solutions, that's going to be met anyway because we really need columns. It's mainly about existing upstream clusters.
Okay.
That we need to worry about.
It's a good idea, Sebastian.
Okay, but that's in any case, that's going to be a follow-up pull request.
Okay.
Okay, then let's go with making it a hard requirement. Next topic, config templates. So we in Cfdm we have a few config templates for generating Grafana configs, for generating alert manager configs, stuff like that, and they are hard coded, and there is basically no way to properly modify that in any case. We could, in theory, make those Ginger templates overwritable using the config key store. Like you're pushing a new Ginger template as a config key blob into Ceph, and then the next time Cfdm deploys the daemon, it's going to use a new Ginger template, the overwritten Ginger template. Benefit is obviously that it's going to be more flexible, but there are a few downsides with it. It's really bad UI because you have to code Ginger templates. It's hard to get right, and we would need to expose Cfdm's internal data structures to those Ginger templates in order to make it actually useful, which I really don't like to do. And my gut feeling is that we shouldn't do that until there is a real need to do that. Any thoughts?
It is going to be needed in the moment that you try to install, for example, another type of daemon. There is a pull request about installing general containers or something like that. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
It could be used, for example, to install HA proxy, okay, and keep alive in order to make RGW endpoints with high availability. Okay, so in this case, you will need to customize the configuration files for HA proxy and keep alive.
But writing Ginger templates really the way we should go forward?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's going to be flexible, but it's bad user experience.
But what are the users that are going to write the templates?
So a use case would be if you really have the need to modify the alert manager configuration to match what you really need, which contains stuff that is not supported by Cfdm, or you need to modify the Grafana configuration template to, I don't know, do what you really need to do, which is impossible right now.
Yes, you need to modify the source code. I think that this is less friendly for the final user.
Yep. But it's super flexible.
Yes. It has the high degree of flexibility and also the high risk of doing the things in the wrong way. So I think that it's a good idea to include the Jinja templates. Okay, that is something that will help us in the future to make things more easy to incorporate new daemons and new and to make easy to customize configuration files. Okay, because probably you are not going to need to know all the internal variables that we have in Cfdm, but it provides to the user, I think that flexibility in order to configure the daemons in the way that he wants.
So note that we already use Jinja too. Here, have a look.
Oh, this is fantastic.
So it's already using Jinja too to generate those configs, but the problem is they are hard coded.
Okay.
Grafana, and it looks like so. Here's a hard coded Jinja template.
And what is the problem? To create a folder inside the Cfdm orchestrator with the basic templates?
Now, the problem is that those templates are stored within the container image. So you would need to derive a new container image, replace replace the Jinja template, and then redeploy all the services. So there is a workaround, right?
Okay. What about to put in the host a folder with the default templates? In all the host.
It would be even worse than making them as part of the config key store. Okay, but I'm sensing that there is some interest in doing that, which is interesting. I thought that the sense would be to just don't do that and please no, and but it's interesting to see actually some interest in that one, in having something like this. Okay, yeah, let me think about it, and maybe we can come up with a very simple solution. I was working on a very similar thing when doing custom device, when implementing custom device lights, which is this one here. That's which is a downstream requirement that it needs to be possible to replace the command that is used to blink device lights. and making it a Ginger template would be was the most easiest way to do. But then you need to override it using something, and I opted out for the config key store. Okay. Next topic. It turns out that you can now actually call talks without any parameters by default in the PyBind, in the source PyBind manager folder, and execute all the Cfdm and Orchestrator and step schedule and basically all talks tests without creating an environment before. And even without compiling Ceph. So, which means that you can actually start now developing Cfdm manager module without ever building Ceph. I think that's great. And the last topic I had in mind was refactorization of the Cfdm binary. How we want to go forward with this. How do we want to start? So Miguel, do you have a specific plan of in which order you want to tackle things?
Yeah. Well, I think that we probably the point where to start is trying to make simple the bootstrap command. Okay. If I think that is the key point, okay, because basically it's the main functionality, and what we have is a big sequence of different steps involving different kind of things, okay. So probably if we can refactor the bootstrap command using classes, okay, for the different elements that we are managing in the bootstrap command, is something that is going to make more readable the Cfdm code.
Note that you can't use any modules, right? As long as the Cfdm binary is a blob that is fetched using call directly from the source tree. There is no way you can use proper modularization within the Cfdm binary.
But this is because we are using the root mode installation, not the package mode.
It's even worse. It's even worse. Deploying a new Ceph cluster. If you follow the upstream documentation, here, then we recommend users to call the Cfdm binary directly from the source tree, which basically, as soon as we merge a backport pull request into the Octopus branch, it's basically released already, which is super awkward.
Yeah. So it seems that we need the fifth step in order to do good refactorization using modules should be to enable the package mode.
I don't think it's that easy. I really don't think it's that easy.
No.
I think we have to slowly migrate from the root mode to something more elaborate.
What I don't understand with this is because, we are asking the final user for requirements in order to install Cfdm in one host, okay? For example, Python 3, and for example, LVM2, for example. What is the problem to make the requirement to install in all the hosts that are going to be part of the cluster one Python package that is could be Cfdm? Prior to start, when I'm going to prepare a host or to check if a host is ready to install Cfdm, the first thing, one of the things that we can do, in the same way you have proposed, for example, to check if the catatonic package is installed or not in order to use the minus init parameter, okay? Why we can't check if Cfdm package is installed? In order to see if the host is possible to include this host in the cluster.
We should do that in any way, regarding which mode someone is using, because even for the root mode, having a Cfdm installed on every host is really beneficial for debugging.
Okay, but we are not talking about debugging. We are talking about production systems and to have possibility to do things in the more easy way. And one of the problems that we have is that we are using something that is a file that you can get from anywhere. Okay, so this is a problem. We need to be sure that when we install Cfdm, we are installing this version from this place. Okay, this is the first problem to solve. Okay, and when we have in the moment that we have this problem solved, we can start to do more things. Okay, because
no. That's a problem. Having Cfdm installed on the whole host only solves one problem, and that's the initial deployment. The bigger problem is that we can't use a package mode when doing upgrades right now.
Upgrades of Cfdm itself.
Of the cluster. Yes, we can't use the package mode when upgrading between minor versions or major versions. And we have to rely on the root mode, at least for now, for that.
And this is why? Because what?
Because the CLI is not stable of Cfdm. So the CLI between if we really wanna go forward with the package mode, then we have to make sure that the CLI between the Cfdm manager module and the Cfdm package is compatible plus minus two major versions, and then the API between the Cfdm binary and Ceph itself is also compatible plus minus two major versions, which is a tremendous requirement that we don't fulfill right now.
But it's something that is in the future.
It's not yet there, and that's the problem, that you can't use the package for upgrades right now.
So the problem starts if we start to define a basic set of commands that we are going to need in order to make upgrades inside the Cfdm, and make this set of commands fixed. Okay, not all the AP of Cfdm, only part of the AP. And with this part fixed, in order to use this part to make the upgrades, we can do that. But the important thing is that it's something that in this moment we are implementing all the functionality with all the AP. Okay, and what we are worried, because in the future, when we will need to change the version, to update to a newer version, the APE is not going to be compatible. We are worried about that. Okay.
Yes.
But we are worried that the new things and the new implementation that we are going to do is not going to follow the design principles and the requirements that we have marked in this moment. So I think that it's just a question of how is it, to set a set of rules, to set, this is my APE, okay, this is my version 1 of the APE, this is my minimum set of instructions that I need to do an upgrade. This is fixed. This can be changed in any way. Okay, so it's difficult because we need to think very well what is going to be this minimal set and what is the commands and the parameters that we are going to need. It's difficult to do that, but it's something that we should do. And after that, the only thing that we need to do is not to break this in the future. And for not to break this in the future is to have a version in the API and to follow the rules, I think.
And in order to have a Cfdm ---- version, we need to get rid of users curling directly from the GitHub repository, because that prevents anything. That really breaks. If it really prevents every change to the source code between developers and users, like adding a proper ---- version. So if we really want to do the package mode, then we need to have a defined stable API between Cfdm and Ceph and the manager module and Cfdm. And for that, we really depend on proper tautology tests. That would be a requirement, basically, right? To have a proper upgrade test between versions using the package mode.
Okay. Well, I think that is just the start to do the things step by step.
Yep, step by step.
We could perhaps fix some of that with a change to the docs to refer to not the branch octopus, but to a specific latest stable release of octopus. But at least then any backports that show up wouldn't be effectively immediately released. It does require a little bit of maintenance burden, though, to update that to the next stable version when there's a new release.
Wouldn't it be much better to properly release Cfdm to maybe download the ceph.com, download.ceph.com, instead of forcing users to download the Cfdm blob from GitHub?
Yeah, we could do that too. It's a I'm not sure it matters particularly whether it's from GitHub or from download.ceph.com, where they're getting it.
Yeah, we could try to write the version hard-coded into the Cfdm source code. Yeah, that would work, but I really don't like it. I mean, the version typically also contains the GitHub, the Git hash, which would be impossible to add.
Right, but I wasn't suggesting changing the source code as so much as just that documentation where it's asking users to go and download the script from somewhere instead of that being an unstable location, making that
stable location
one that doesn't change.
We would need to automate it. We would need to automate it. Is there a way in the docs to reference GitHub repository tags like v15.2.5?
I'm not sure if there's a direct way to do that, but there's certainly a way to define variables in the docs, so we could make that part of the release process that get a variable in the docs is changed to reflect the latest stable tag.
That would be an improvement, indeed. And in general, I really want to get rid of downloading users directly from GitHub.
Yeah, moving it to the location on download, that Ceph.com accomplishes the same thing, I suppose. I do think it is important to preserve that kind of non-package mode of installation. That's the simplest, easy way to get running with a single command.
Yep. If we make it a requirement, the user has to install Cfdm as an npm package, then we don't need to have this curl thing at all. Problem is there are distributions where we don't have proper packages, like for example Ubuntu. There is no Cfdm package because we don't release it.
Yeah, and it's just an extra step for users to do, which rather we try focusing on removing steps rather than adding them. The initial, this is like the first thing someone totally new to Ceph might see, and want to make that as frictionless as possible.
And how do you install Cfdm on Ubuntu if you don't have a Ubuntu Cfdm package?
Exactly, you have to go download the script.
Exactly.
And what
use a root mode.
What about a pip installer, a pip package?
Users don't have access to pip.
Yeah, I think that's too much of a developer tool.
Yep. The developer tool.
Why we cannot publish public pip package for Cfdm? I don't understand. I don't know exactly how it works. Okay, so what is the program to have a pip package for install Cfdm?
Adam did that a while ago, and we found a dozen problems that are spawned by trying to do that. Let me try to find out the pull request. Pip. Here. Here. And we've talked about that in January already, Shemige.
Yes.
So here.
Yes.
That's a list of things that problematic when just making the pip package. And I think making it a proper pip package is actually a requirement, because having a proper pip package would make it possible to proper use Python modules. And I think having proper Python modules is one of the requirements to actually properly refactorize Cfdm. Without modules, it's always going to be a 5,000. We are beyond that already. Close to 6,000 lines of code Python blob.
Okay.
And lots of classes within this. So I really think that we really should also focus on making it a proper Python package.
Okay.
before even considering making the mode default to the package mode.
Okay, so the steps in order to do that will be: first, include the version in Cfdm. Second, create the RPM and the pip package for Cfdm. Okay. We have, Daniel has, there is a pull request, open it or close it, I don't know, from Daniel, making a pip package for Cfdm.
Yep.
But we need
That's pull
the
request
version.
32662.
Okay. The third step is to create, to investigate, to collect what is the API that we are using in order to make updates, and put tautology test in order to verify that this is not changed. Okay. Probably we will need to reach an agreement about what is the minimum set of commands that we need to update and what parameters we are going to use. And with that, we have Cfdm in package mode. Okay. So there is another thing that we need to do. That is, in the moment that you are using Cfdm and Cfdm binary, when you are using from the orchestrator the Cfdm command, we are using some things in root mode that are not used in package mode. Okay, so we need to check if this how to change this problem. Okay, so basically these 4 steps. Or maybe I can send you, right here, a list of steps. We can reach an agreement with the steps and start to implement that.
I'm just proposing that we split it up in different steps.
Okay.
And instead of having one big refactorization that does everything, instead we go step by step, fixing one problem at a time.
Okay.
And then.
Perfect. But I would like to have all the steps. Okay. Let's go to prepare a document, if you want, with all the steps that we want, all the problems that we expect to have. Okay. And start to work with that.
Okay. That sounds like a plan. Okay. Then let's do it. Okay. Anything else for today? We have 5 minutes left.
Okay. Bye.
Nothing. Okay. Bye.
See you.
Bye, everyone.